Rectification of errors. Again, we look at purchases, and this is part 2 of the video relating to purchases. Let us see some more examples where there might be errors when you are passing entry for purchases. Let's say first one. Credit purchase from X was not passed through his account amounting 80,000. Okay. Now there were some credit purchases from X was not passed through his account amounting rupees 80,000 or whatever currency you want to consider over here. Now when you make a credit purchases, what entry do you pass? Normally, as we had discussed in part 1 of this video, you will debit the purchase account and you will credit the creditor, in this case is X. So this is basically the correct entry. But what have we done? Credit purchase from X was not passed through his account. What the detail that we have is that this credit was not passed through his account. So this is what has not happened. There is nowhere mentioned that this purchase account was not debited properly. Okay. So what is the result of this? The result of this is this was not credited. This was supposed to be credited. So we will do it right now to X 80,000. Right. But as I told you, the question nowhere says, there is no indication that this purchase entry was also not passed properly. So we assume that purchase account was debited properly. It's just that this posting was not done to his account. But where was this posting done then? I mean, no one knows. There is nothing mentioned here. Even we don't know. We might have to find this out. So for the time being, because it's a suspense as to where this entry has gone, we debit the suspense account. So we say currently it's in suspense as to where this entry has gone. But this has been credited somewhere. Okay, so we are assuming that that account is incorrect. But what is that? Is a suspense. So remember it like this. It's a suspense where this entry has gone. So therefore we are debiting the suspense account. Right? Second, credit purchases from X was not passed through his account amounting rupees 80,000. Now let's say instead of 80,000 it was passed as 20,000. Right? So he was supposed to be credited by 80,000, but instead of 80,000 he was credited only 20,000. Right? Again, he had to be credited by 80. He was credited 20, so there's a shortfall of 60,000. So that credit he has to get. Again, there is no indication as to where this entry has gone. Okay? I mean 60,000. When we would have passed the purchase entry, we would have debited purchase by 80,000. Right? The credit went to his account only for 20,000. So where did the 60,000 go? Yet again we don't have an answer, so we will again put this in suspense account. Right? What if instead of 20,000 he was credited 100,000? Now if he was credited 100,000, he was supposed to get only 80, which means what? He has been credited in excess by 20,000. So if there's a wrong credit, that can be rectified in accounting terms. How? By debiting him. So you will debit X account 20,000, right? And we will credit the suspense account. Okay. Let's take a third case here. passed through account of Y for 80,000. So credit purchases from X was passed through account of Y. So instead of crediting X, we credited Y, and that too by 80,000 again. So now X was supposed to be credited by 80,000, which is the correct entry. So we will credit him by 80,000, right? But what has happened is that instead of X, we had credited Y for 80,000. So to Y's account, we have a credit of 80,000, which is incorrect. So to rectify that also, we will debit Y account, okay, by 80,000. Right? And then there is one more entry which is normally there in case of rectification, which is that instead of crediting X's account was debited by 80,000. Now what? So what happened was that you had to pass the entry purchase account debit to X by 80,000. Now what you did was, while you passed the entry correctly, when you were posting this to X's account, instead of, let's say for this was a debit and this was a credit. So instead of crediting X by 80,000, you debited him by 80,000. So now basically you have to rectify this. So how will you do it? The first thing is you will reverse this debit. And how will you reverse this debit? By crediting X by 80,000. So this is reversal of wrong debit. And then you will pass the correct entry, which is crediting X by 80,000 towards the correct entry. So in this case, X's account is actually getting credited by 160,000, which is 2 times the amount of entry involved. Please note that whenever there is a wrong posting, you pass it through a wrong side of a ledger account, then obviously the balances are actually double. Now we don't know where this entry is, the corresponding side is sitting, so we debit the suspense account over here, okay, to balance this out, right? So these are some of the entries that you make in respect of purchases for which normal rectifications are required.